think you are watching the beauty of pristine nature. No. This is the most ruthless money machine on the planet. Beneath 40-feet walls of water, the ocean offers no mercy. It is absolutely capitalized. A 100 million USD empire built on brutal ecological purging. From the violent invasion of green crustaceans to massive floating factories weighing tens of thousands of lbfs, chewing through millions of mindless lives. In the abyss of the dark mud, tons of biomass are drained and manipulated by an underworld cartel. Human lives, ultimately priced flatly by the swinging margins of the market. Betting your breath in minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 70 miles per hour winds suffocating your chest. You are not chewing seafood. You are swallowing a sweat and blood-soaked indictment. The empire of four creatures officially emerges. The $100 million ocean empire inside the four-species extraction factory. In the 17th century, lobsters piled 2 feet high, only cheap food for prisoners. Rockefeller capitalists distorted history, pushing this biomass to the peak of luxury. Buried in the deep bottom, they hide a biological secret. Telomerase enzymes continuously patch DNA errors. A 100-year-old individual carries the organs of a juvenile. But nature sets up a ruthless mechanical trap. They refuse to wither from age. When the weight exceeds the 40 pounds threshold, molting consumes energy acceleration beyond bearing capacity, oversized. They collapse from exhaustion or are buried right in their own rotting armor. Immortality is permanently imprisoned under the abyss. The winter storm has no mercy. It scours every coordinate to strip away life force. The ocean slaps straight into human arrogance, turning the deck into an unforgiving battlefield. This impact is solid and ruthless, exactly like crashing into a reinforced concrete wall. In this freezing void, there is absolutely no room for weakness or a single moment of slack. Water temperature plummets, freezing at the 35 degrees Fahrenheit threshold. Fierce 20-feet waves continuously smash the deck. Steel cables stretch to the absolute limit. Snap. The trap pulled from the abyss is completely empty, leaving a 1, 0, 0. 0, 0, 0, 0 debt weighing on their necks at 4 a.m. Sweat and recklessness traded for dollars. MTT handed, frozen deck, treated head, no way back. Extreme capitalism strips away all vitality, turning the ironwood blue-collar men into absolute losers against the mindless power of nature. How long can you endure the ruthless silence of this ocean? Before your spirit completely collapses, the Gulf of Maine IS raging, opening its mouth to swallow every hope of the reckless men far offshore, ruthless and heartless, exactly like a giant industrial trash crusher chewing up old sedans in absolute silence. Defeat refuses to exist in the resume of New England hunters. The frozen deck instantly transforms into a fiery forge of determination. The outer kitchen funnel is forced into a strict one-way trap, while the inner parlor compartment is locked down absolutely. The escape vent is precisely calibrated at the 3.25 inches mark. It is a mandatory ecological martial law sentence, deassigned to release juvenile individuals back to nature, protecting the long-term survival of the entire ocean. Every trap is fully loaded with redfish, transforming into a biological bomb underwater. The ocean waves spit out a mass of red gold. The water surface tears open, fierce and violent. Exactly like a rock blasting explosion. Under a deep water pressure of 300 feet, the fish fat releases a pungent, bloody scent, hypnotizing the crustacean tanks on the seabed to swim straight into the death zone. The revenge voyage officially begins, turning every trap into a harvest station with no way back. The current coordinates are locked. The 40 feet down east machine plows the sea, hydraulic winches S-seer each, dragging the steel trap through the freezing water, steel cable stretched taut like a guitar string. Does the pride of nature mean anything? When placed on the commercial scale, capitalist greed scores every hidden corner, suffocating every breath of the abyss, razor sharp, exactly like an industrial chainsaw cutting off the wood grain of an ancient tree. Pressure shatters. The thick olive-brown biomass rises. Specialized pliers fire, paralyzing the claws carrying a clamping force of 1,800 psi. Enough power to crush finger bones exactly like snapping a dry branch. Every standard lobster crate is slammed into the circulation tank. The empty nightmare has been crushed. Sweat, recklessness, craftsmanship. Metal subdues nature. Extreme capitalism presses flesh straight into cash. The gamble is a success. How to survive when you just want to gamble. But the dealer is the one holding the rules of the game. The dead storm escores the port, squeezing out every last drop of sweat of the fishermen. razor sharp and heartless, exactly like a lawnmower blade crushing a wild garden. The X-blade pierces straight into the nervous system. The sterile surgical room has completely stripped away the wild. Thousands of gallons of diesel oil are burned. Bank interest surrounds. The cost black hole swallows the entire cash flow. Purchasing agents force the price down to the bottom 12.49 USD for every pound. Instantly, the biomass is slammed into the freezing vault, sealed at minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, freezing time. Fishermen become slaves to the capitalist grinder, betting their lives amidst the snowstorm, receiving the most pitiful portion. Blue-collar grit is tied down. Money flows into the pockets of those wearing suits. Dollar bills soaked in sweat and recklessness are washed clean by the freezing seawater, ice cold and ruthless, exactly like a bank vault room on Wall Street. The freezing ice block 650 feet deep of the Gulf of Maine is closing. Shifting direction to the deep and cold waters of the Bering Sea, where humans no longer go to clean up, they operate the most brutal industrial swallowing machine ever designed. Do you know that behind a cheap filet-o-fish sandwich is an entire macro-geopolitical chess game? The Bering Sea is growling. It opens its mouth to swallow peace treaties and spits out extreme greed. Razor sharp and heartless, exactly like a medieval guillotine chopping up all diplomat. This is an ecosystem bringing over $2 billion every year to America. Pollock is not merely food. It is a heavyweight geopolitical weapon. Cold War without gunfire is happening day and night. Between the super ships of Russia and America on the Bering Sea, sweat and recklessness traded for dollars. Extreme capitalism defies all limits to scavenge this massive resource. Humans always worship the hunters, but the clinical truth, the real ruler of the ocean, is the prey disguising itself under the depth of 6,500 feet. Their survival is a brutal biological grinding machine, throwing millions of lives into the darkness to exchange for a few sparks of survival. Ruthless and cold, exactly like the meat grinder tactics on the harsh trenches during the World War. Biological perfection of this species lies in the ability to reproduce to surrender their lives, releasing up to 2 million eggs every spawn. If they disappear, the entire ocean will collapse in a chain reaction. Macro greed is draining the very foundation of the planet. The resistance of nature is completely broken. Audiences always romanticize seafaring as a blood-soaked epic of sweat and screaming struggles against nature's wrath for 24 straight hours. But clinical reality is spine-chillingly brutal and boring. In the Bering Sea, the war has no rough growls of exhausted sailors. True terror does not lie in bloodstains on the steel deck. It reigns right inside absolute mechanical silence. The command bridge of the floating factory ship looks exactly like a data center with 15 blinking radar screens. Zero instinct. The giant midwater trawl net drops into the sea with inch-perfect precision. The net mouth opens up grandly equal to the entire structure of the Eiffel Tower, gaping wide as it glides through the cold, dark water. The massive 300 feet steel-hulled warship plows the waves silently, dragging an artificial black hole ready to swallow everything. Every parameter from depth and biomass density to flow rate is measured automatically. Winches start tightening, friction superheats the metal mass. But the only sound emitted is the low hum of the circulating hydraulic system. Beneath the thick black waves, destructive pressure chokes every fragile survival effort. The net coils tight, crushing millions of lives into a dense sphere with no air bubbles left. Panic shatters in absolute silence. Zero resistance. The floating factory machine showcases violent power, compressing physical limits to the absolute core. Brutal deprivation suffocates the entire ocean biosphere. A massive payload of up to 120,000 pounds of biomass is ripped from the water and crashes into the hold in a mere 30 minutes. An industrial-scale massacre runs smoothly, crushing the pride of the abyss completely. The moment the waterlogged flesh hits the floor, automatic conveyor belts activate instantly. Do you shiver realizing your dinner is the product of a soulless assembly line stripping life faster than the blink of an eye? Razor-sharp industrial blades slice fins, turning wild creatures into square protein blocks. Invisible cash flows surge through every cold link. Every wild trace of the sea is completely wiped out before dawn breaks. The vast ocean is being shaved bare and drained from within by computer algorithms. The entire production line is strictly calibrated for zero deviation standard efficiency. Extreme capitalism needs no emotions. It only glorifies statistical numbers behind closed doors. Life becomes raw material. But just as the machine attempts to extend its tentacles into a new trench, the script flips completely. Terrain sonar screens suddenly flash red. A massive pitch black, and abnormal turbulence appears 2,500 feet deep. It is note a school of fish. Something is slowly rising from the abyss, threatening to swallow the hunter itself. The concept of freshness that consumers believe is actually a spectacular scam of technology. The moment they leave the water, tens of thousands of living beings are instantly stripped of the wild. The massive biomass is taken straight into slow chill chambers. AI robot systems coldly intervene. Mechanical blades cut fillets precise to every inch. The ruthless mechanical silence swallows all resistance whole, swimming creatures turn into the inanimate. Their state is locked hard by a deep freezing system at -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Humans officially freeze time. The biological decomposition process is halted. Not allowed to break the cold chain even by 1 degree Fahrenheit. Sub-zero temperatures tie down the biosphere, stripping the right to return to dust. An inanimate immortal protein block is created. It is standardized by razor-sharp barcode lines, ready to dominate every supermarket globally. Absolutely do not break the cold chain, even by 1 degree Fahrenheit. The product is barcode standardized to dominate every supermarket globally. The capitalist machine operates as smoothly under the sunlight, but in the desolate forbidden waters of Africa and the Indian Ocean, another cash flow is running in the darkness, where legal boundaries are torn apart by underground cartels just to hunt down a boneless, squishy mass of meat. Audiences always mistakenly believe the underworld only revolves around drugs or weapons. The darkness of greed is extending its octopus tentacles, easing the motionless living beings at the bottom of the sea. Sophisticated and airtight exactly like a professional money laundering network of Wall Street tycoons. A slimy mass of meat is actually the most perfect exchange currency. At high-end auction floors, their value reaches an insane threshold, $10,000 USD for every pound of weight. Cartel gangs in Mexico and underground mafia in East Africa completely neutralize all conservation barriers. Sea bands are torn apart. Nature is stripped away. Extreme capitalism turns the ecosystem into a lawless playground of the underworld. Consumers believe that luxury goods cannot be faked, a cognitive blind spot. This creature possesses a perfect biological weapon, mutable connective tissue, composed of 70% pure collagen. Fast, this massive meat is a shape-shifting SPY of the ocean, flexible and cunning, exactly like a ghost hiding in the absolute night. It turns to stone to break the teeth of enemies, then instantly liquefies to slip through the cracks. The mussel is completely asexual, no fat, no fishy smell. They become a perfect substrate for forgery. At massive factories, this meat mass easily absorbs flavors, forced into molds to simulate the muscle structure of the most expensive crustaceans on the planet. Deceit takes the throne. Benthic creatures are drained to serve global. war at sea never bears the romantic beauty of classical oil paintings. The reality beneath dark waves is a brutal sweep guided by cutting-edge technology. Radar and 3D terrain sonar systems operate at full capacity, constantly firing sonic waves piercing through cold water 3,000 feet deep. Every corner of the abyss is exposed on digital screens. Stripping nature of its sanctuary, men no longer cast nets by instinct or luck. They program a giant bottom trawling machine designed for mass destruction and dredging every obstacle. Two giant steel doors, weighing over 5,000 pounds each, drop to anchor the net mouth onto the seabed. Terrifying friction plows through sediments dormant for millennia. Cold water coral ecosystems and fragile sponge beds shredded in a flash. The steel plow sweeps an area equal to 15 football fields in just 1 hour. No creature escapes the dark throat of this industrial net. The weight of metal crushes native ecosystems into murky dust. On deck, clashing metal shrieks, tearing the thick air. Hydraulic winches max out, reeling in 2 inches thick steel cables, strained like snapping guitar strings. Pulling pressure rips the water surface. Tension on the hull hits 8,000 psi. Enough to snap unreinforced structures, nature fights back through physical weight. Fishermen' recklessness pushed to the extreme as they refuse to throttle down. The 2,000 horsepower diesel engine roars, defying risk to drag the massive biomass. Do you realize the greatest threat capsizing the ship does not come from wild storms? The cruelest human cognitive blind spot is greed. When the net surfaces, a horrifying scene appears. Over 40,000 pounds of waterlogged tube-shaped creatures, tens of thousands of sea cucumbers, black mud, and dark sediments crash onto the deck, an avalanche of deprivation. This thick biomass carries commercial value. It acts as a ticking time bomb, directly threatening the crew. All vessel stabilization systems instantly disable from sudden weight shifts. Massive static loads lean to one side, forcing the steel hull deep into freezing 34 degrees Fahrenheit water. Seawater floods the deck, washing away panic. The gravity of greed weighs heavily on every hinge and rivet. Veteran hunters hold their breath. A sudden 12-feet beam wave right now could turn this proud floating machine into a coffin. Physical conflict on the steel deck turns into a gamble. Dumping the net to save the ship means tossing tens of thousands of USD back into the ocean. No one dares cut the cable. The silence of the greed black hole consumes their minds. Winches roar, forcing ocean flesh into negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit freezing holds. The mushy biomass instantly freezes along with nature's final resistance. Extreme capitalism wagers lives once more to squeeze ecology straight into cash. When the ship rights itself, only mud odor and bottomless greed remain on deck. The biochemical clock counts down. The ruthless self-destruct mechanism, autolysis, instantly activates endogenous enzymes, automatically digest their own structure. To halt the decay, workers throw the creatures into the freezing 32 degrees Fahrenheit slush ice tank. Nerves paralyzed. Right after that, they're slammed into the liquid nitrogen chamber. Super fast freezing lock at minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit in a mere 60 seconds. Time freezes. The wild creature turns into an inanimate object. The Qingdao Mega Factory is exactly a macro bleaching machine. Millions of supermarket barcodes are just a supply scam. Sophisticated and invisible exactly, like the money laundering network of tycoons. Contraband from forbidden seas is mixed with species. Workers paste over new labels, erasing the original DNA background. The illegal origin is completely bent. Ultimately, they sit proudly on a 3-star Michelin dining table in New York. Do you realize the truth? When looking at the sparkling labels in a high-end supermarket, deceit is putting on a legal coat. It smiles and mocks all international laws, perfect and flawless, exactly like a forged artwork bypassing every appraisal expert. $1 million mission is closed without, leaving a biological trace. But under the freezing 35 degrees Fahrenheit water of New England, nature sets up a hierarchy trap, challenging the most reckless ones to come and gamble their own survival. Do you realize weapons of mass destruction are not born in a lab, but come from the global trade network itself? Globalization is smiling, silently opening wide the door of doom for native ecosystems, cold and invisible, exactly like a giant steamroller crushing all seeds of life under its tracks. From Europe, green crabs hitchhike on ocean superships to sweep through San Francisco Bay and the North American coast. The collapse of seagrass beds begins. They do not use force to invade. Humanity itself has weaponized this creature. The sweep arrives. A solitary individual can crush up to 40 clams every single day. Humanity has self-transported the life-stripping sentence to its OM waters. Do not call them destroyers. Under the ruthless biological lens, this is a supreme evolutionary artifact. They easily endure extreme temperature ranges from 32 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Their thorny shell is an armored biological tank, challenging all laws of natural selection. Invincible and perfect, exactly like a stealth fighter breaking the entire air defense radar system of the opponent. Completely superior to weak native species. Do you think advanced positioning technology always wins beneath wild mud? The Gulf of Maine chokes all modern engineering, stripping bare and stripping away all our civilized illusions, cold and ruthless. Exactly. Like a giant fossilized swamp burying ancient relics deep below. Humanity's cruelest cognitive blind spot does not lie far offshore, but hides right in 10 feet of water. Audiences are always fooled by flashy footage of giant armored super trawlers plowing the ocean. But the brutal clinical truth is at the bottom of the supply chain. Wild nature strips away all your modern. Leaving the safety of the deck, hunters must step straight into the silent wild mudflats. In this 3 feet deep sunken battlefield, million-dollar complex sonar systems become completely useless. All modernity is instantly disabled. No 2,000 horsepower diesel engine can roar to rescue man. This is a saturated war pushed back to its most brutal primitive form. Thick fog covers the entire bay within a 5 miles radius from shore. Human vision drops to absolute zero. Air temperature plummets downhill to an extreme 32 degrees Fahrenheit, turning every damp droplet into invisible sharp blades cutting through fragile. The fierce confrontation is now a life or death war between bleeding human flesh and deadly mud pits. Every sunken step becomes heavy. The suction force of the thick black mud beneath feet is so strong, it demands up to 40 pounds of pull force just to lift a rubber-booted heel. Humans are being dragged backward into Mother Earth in the most brutal and ruthless way. Irio are hydraulic winches for support. This fierce survival war is decided solely by bare hands. Beneath 4 feet of murky water, mud-soaked steel traps lie silently, waiting for punishment. Have you ever wondered what the endurance limit of an ordinary human is before the entire musculoskeletal system completely collapses? The fierce confrontation is now a life or death war between bleeding human flesh and deadly mud pits. Every sunken step becomes heavy. The suction force of the thick black mud beneath feet is so strong, it demands up to 40 pounds of pull force just to lift a rubber-booted heel. Humans are being dragged backward into Mother Earth in the most brutal and ruthless way. Here, there are no hydraulic winches for support. This fierce survival war is decided solely by bare hands. Beneath 4 feet of murky water, mud-soaked steel traps lie silently waiting for punishment. Have you ever wondered what the endurance limit of an ordinary human is before the entire musculoskeletal system completely collapses? Inside, a pack of green monsters are tearing each other apart frantically. Hundreds of invasive green crabs carry terrifying destructive power. Their claws carry an 80 psi grip force, enough to snap any obstacle in their path. The black hole of deprivation appears clearer and more real than ever. This brutal invasion cannot be cleaned up by advanced computer algorithms or industrial swallowing machines. Humanity's bottomless greed has accidentally unleashed this monster across the planet. Everything is pure, utter hopelessness. The paradox of the solution begins to appear. Crab shells containing chitin are brought into the factory. They are recycled into biodegradable bioplastic film 2 inches thick and nuke generation energy batteries. The ecological disaster has put on the green cloak of salvation, beautiful and fake, exactly like a Trojan horse carrying the cover of a pearl. The invasivorism movement, eating to exterminate, suddenly brings a massive value chain of millions of USD to chemical and food corporations. when a biological disaster turns into a gold mine, bringing a massive profit margin up to 200%. Does capitalism really want to destroy it? Greed silently sets up a perfect cobra trap. Do you realize the antidote is sometimes the most terrifying, highly toxic poison? The greed of the capitalist machine is gloating, silently tolerating and nurturing the pathogen to protect its kingdom of raw materials, emotionless and pragmatic, exactly like a closed farm squeezing the life force out of obedient sheep. The cash flow of raw materials for producing plastics and biobatteries circulates at a speed of thousands of m. Greed is both the cure and the poison. The invasion of green crabs forces humans to use greed to clean up the ecosystem. But that is only a war in the shallow waters 10 feet deep. The truly most brutal voyage is still waiting. Are humans truly cleaning up the ecosystem or digging their omen graves? The shallow waters are breathing a sigh of relief. But the Bering Sea out there is growling, waiting to strip away new lives. Pitch black and cold exactly like a giant morgue under the ocean. Right now, the water temperature is plummeting to 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Sustainable management laws? The truth is the economy is parasiting on the wounds of the planet. Talk FP by effect, the capitalist class wants the pathogen to not go extinct to preserve profit margins. The Cobra effect, the capitalist class wants the pathogen to not go extinct to preserve profit margins. The matrix of entangled rope traps silently strangles right whales to the brink of extinction. Nature does not operate on financial reports. The macro emptiness will come to collect its debt. Humans are no longer hunters. We are slaves to this very machine of greed. The supermarket receipt does not charge for the necrotic, frostbitten fingers of the crewmen. Chewing on luxury, you are genawing at the last wild ruins of this planet. Stand with DDB Green.